The red string was tied around her wrist. The old man asked her name. Grace, her best friend, smiled and said, "Friend." Then the knife came out, sharp, cold, ready. Hands gripped her arms, holding her in place. "This is for your protection," someone lied. It took 1 second for Amara to know she wouldn't leave alive. Welcome back. As you enjoy the story, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and also share with your friends. Now back to the story. The alley was narrow and mean. Broken bottles on the ground. A dead generator humming somewhere like a bad spirit that refused to sleep. Amara ran barefoot, wrapper loose around her waist, throat dry, heart loud. Behind her, a man's footsteps slapped the wet concrete. Another voice shouted, "Catch her." She cut left. A stray dog barked and leapt away. A metal gate cried. She grabbed the edge of a fence and hauled herself over, tearing her palm. She landed in dust, rose, stumbled, kept moving. She did not scream. Screams can bring the wrong kind of attention in this city. At the end of the yard was a cracked wall. Beyond it, a quiet street lit by one stubborn bulb. She looked back. 2 shadows spilled into the yard. One wore a long kaftan with red stitching at the chest and a beaded necklace that flashed. The other had a dashiki and a small leather bag under his arm. They were not running. They did not need to. They thought she had nowhere to go. "Amara," a voice called from the gate. Calm. Familiar. She froze. Grace. Her friend from the village. The girl who shared roasted corn with her after school. The girl who tied bright Ankara wrappers during Harmattan festivals and laughed when the wind tried to snatch them away. The girl who told her last week, "Let me help you. I know people." Grace stepped into the yard like she owned the ground. Ankara dress, fitted, rich blue with gold circles. A light scarf over her hair. Small gold earrings. City polish on a village face. She looked soft and warm, but her eyes were glass. "Don't run," Grace said. "You're safe. I told you. These are respectable people." The man in the kaftan grinned without showing teeth. The dashiki man adjusted his bag, eyes on Amara's neck as if measuring it. Amara's throat burned. "This is not help." Grace didn't blink. "You said you were tired. Rent is due. Your mother is sick. You said you needed a door to open. I brought you to a door." Amara backed toward the wall. The kaftan man lifted his staff. It was carved, old, stained darker than wood should be. He tapped it on the ground once. The sound traveled through Amara's legs like a warning. "Don't make it hard," he said. "It will be clean." Clean. The word hit her like a slap. She saw it then. The gifts from Grace. The rides. The food. The sudden sisterly care after months of distance. The late-night call where Grace had said, "Wear something decent. We are meeting people who love tradition. They value those who respect it." She had smiled. She had believed. Fool. Amara sprinted. She threw herself at the wall, pushed on a loose block, and dragged her body up. Fingers slipped. Her foot found a crack. She pulled and rolled over the top, dropped into a bush, and crawled. Thorns kissed her skin. A rat shot away and vanished under a drum. She bit back a cry. On the other side, a small boy sat on a step eating bread. He stared at her, eyes wide. She pressed a finger to her lips. He nodded and scooted back, clutching his bread like a secret. She reached the street. A keek rattled past. A woman balanced a tray of oranges and didn't slow. Life in the city is like that. Your cry is a mosquito in a market. "Stop," the dashiki man yelled from behind the wall. She ran. Past kiosks. Past goats sleeping under a dead billboard. Past a tailor's shop where Kent cloth hung like flags. Past a pair of lovers sharing a bottle of malt under a mango tree. The night air cut her lungs, but it also cleared her head. She needed a crowd. She needed light. She needed a place where people would talk, even if nobody would help. At the roundabout, a cluster of roadside grills smoked. Men laughed around roasting fish. Music jumped from a speaker, old highlife, soft and bright. She pushed into the edge of the crowd and bent over a bench, hands on her knees, head down, breathing like a hunted animal. "Madam, you okay?" the fish seller asked, eyes kind but careful. "I'm fine," she lied, then straightened and turned her face away from the road. In the reflection of a roadside mirror, she saw them arrive. Kaftan, Dashiki, and, God help her, Grace. Grace's face was calm, like a nurse. She spoke to the men, then to a motorcyclist. She pointed down the lane. Amara moved with the crowd. She kept her head low, wrapping her torn wrapper tighter. Her mind tried to break into pieces and run in different directions. Home, hostel, police, church, anywhere. She forced herself to choose one thought: stay alive for 5 minutes. Then choose again. She slipped behind the grills and into a narrow corridor between two shops. It led to a small open space with basins, buckets, and a cracked tap. A woman in a faded Ankara skirt washed plates. She glanced up, saw the fear, and looked away. The city taught her that. Amara cupped her palm under the tap. The water was brown at first, then clear enough. She washed the blood from her hand. The sting made her eyes water. A memory punched through. 2 months ago, she and Grace had stood at the edge of the village stream, skirts hitched up, laughing as they washed cassava. Children chased each other on the bank. An old drummer tested his hands on a talking drum for a coming ceremony. Grace had said, "When we get to the city, I will buy a kaftan with silver thread. I will sit in the front row in class. I will date a man with a car but not a big mouth." Amara had laughed. "I will buy Kent for my mother. Real one, not the market copy. We will not forget this place, Shaw," Grace had said, splashing water at her. "Never," Amara had replied. She had meant it. She thought Grace had too. A voice broke the memory. "Auntie, you can't stay here." Amara looked up. A young man stood at the entrance to the corridor. He wore a simple shirt and carried a delivery bag. His eyes flicked from her torn wrapper to her bleeding hand, then to the street where the 3 hunters passed again, scanning. "They are looking for you," he said. "I know," she whispered. "Come," he said. "Hide inside the compound. My aunt will not ask questions until morning." "Why are you helping me?" He shrugged. "Tomorrow it could be me." Amara followed him. The compound smelled of kerosene and soap. A small shrine stood at a corner, white chalk on a low stone, 3 kola nuts, a small calabash. She touched her forehead by habit as she passed. He led her to a room behind the bathrooms. It had a mat, a plastic chair, and a flickering bulb. He handed her a bottle of water. "My name is Teo," he said. "What is yours?" "Amara." He nodded like that name fit the night. "Rest. I will sit outside. If police come, I will say you are my cousin." Her chest loosened a little. "Thank you." He left. She locked the door and slid down against it, water bottle cold in her hands. The bulb buzzed. Her body trembled in waves. She drew her knees to her chest. Her thoughts tried to scatter again. She held one. How did it come to this? 3 days earlier, the city had felt like a promise again. She had finished her last exam for the semester. She had texted Dele, the quiet boy in her statistics class who fixed phones to pay fees and always walked her to the bus stop. Dele with gentle eyes and patience like an old man. Dele who said he would visit the village with her one day to greet her mother properly. Exam finished. "I need food before I faint." He sent a laughing emoji and a voice note, "I'm at the shop. Come. I kept small jollof for you." She went. He had kept more than small jollof. He had saved a turkey wing for her and turned the fan toward her chair. He had asked about her mother's blood pressure and if the money he sent last month helped. It did. He told her he got a second-hand laptop to start a small design side hustle. She told him she would apply for a library job when school resumed. They ate. They smiled. They planned small, safe plans. On her way back to the hostel, Grace called. "Babe, where are you?" "Hostel gate." "Wait for me. I'm coming with an Uber." "Since when do you take Uber?" Grace laughed. "New friends, new discounts." The car arrived, smooth, dark, air-conditioned. Grace smelled like expensive vanilla. Her nails were done. Her Ankara top had clean lines and sat perfect on her shoulders. The driver greeted them like he knew Grace from somewhere important. "Where are we going?" Amara asked. "To eat," Grace said. "And talk. I have good news for you." They went to a place with glass doors and lights that made the plates shine. Men in kaftans, women in fitted Ankara dresses with high heels. Music so soft she could feel it in her elbows but not hear the words. Grace ordered too much and waved away the bill with a smile. A man in a dashiki stopped by their table to greet her. He had a ring with a red stone. After he left, Grace leaned in. "You see the kind of people I move with now? They are not loud, but they have keys. Not just money. Keys." Amara chewed slowly. "What kind of keys?" "Connections. Dignity. Respect. They help those who help themselves." Amara thought of her mother's text that morning. Hospital said bring 20,000 by Friday for drugs. Her account had 8,500. She had been forcing herself not to cry about it. Grace touched her hand. "You know I love you." Amara looked up. Years of shared rooms and shared bowls and shared secrets sat between them like bread. "I know. I can open a door for you," Grace said. "But you must be calm. You must respect tradition. You must not ask too many questions. Just trust me." "Trust you how?" "There is a meeting on Friday night. Wear something decent. No jeans. Ankara if you have. Something that shows you are a good girl who respects her ancestors. You will meet an elder. He gives blessings. After that, things start to change." "Church." Grace smirked. "Better." Amara laughed then, small and unsure. She looked at her phone. Dele had sent a photo of a cracked screen he was fixing and a caption. "Pray for this patient, critical condition." She almost texted him about the meeting, then didn't. She didn't want to look naive. She didn't want to hear him say, "Be careful." Friday came too fast. She ironed her only good Ankara dress. It was not new, but the pattern was bold, sunbursts on dark blue. She wore simple sandals and small bead earrings she bought at a campus market. She braided her hair herself, neat and low. She looked at the mirror and tried to see what Grace saw. A good girl who respected her ancestors. She only saw a girl trying not to choke on fear and hope at the same time. Grace arrived, bright as a market morning. Her Ankara was new. Her scarf matched her nails. She hugged Amara like nothing bad could live in her arms. "You look perfect," she said. They took a taxi to the edge of town, where houses leaned into each other and the night air smelled like smoke and fried plantain. They walked down a narrow lane. From a compound, drums spoke in low tones. A woman passed them in a long kaftan that whispered over the dust. Men stood by a gate, wearing dashikis with patterns that told stories Amara did not know. One wore a Kent sash, bright and proud, like a flag from another century. Grace squeezed Amara's hand. "Smile. Do not be rude." They entered the compound. Candles burned in small cups along the ground, making a path. At the far end, under a rough shelter, an old man sat on a low stool. The carved staff rested across his lap. Women moved around with calabashes. A young man with a leather bag took phones at the entrance and put them in a plastic bowl. "Phones?" Amara asked. "Respect," Grace said. They sat on a bench. Grace leaned close. "When it is time, they will call you. You will say your name. You will accept the blessing. They will ask for a small gift. I already covered it." "What will they do?" "Bless you. Open your way." The old man raised his head. His eyes were not kind, but they were steady. He spoke a few words in a tongue Amara's grandmother knew, the kind of words used at naming and burial. The women answered. A drummer touched hide with soft fingers. The night felt thick. Amara swallowed. She thought of her mother at home, wrapping a scarf tight against her matan and telling stories to the neighbors' children about the turtle who tried to cheat and lost his shell. Folktales had rules. The greedy suffer. The proud fall. The loyal are saved. Life didn't always obey. But the heart still wanted those rules to hold. A boy came and whispered to the leatherbag man. He looked at Amara and nodded. Her, he said. Grace squeezed her hand hard, then let go. Go, she said. You will be fine. After tonight, no more suffering. Amara stood. Her legs felt like sticks. She walked toward the old man. The candles made the ground flicker. The staff on his lap looked wet at the tip. She told herself it was oil. She told herself this was just one more older person who liked to see respect. She told herself that hunger and fear can make any tradition look like salvation. She reached the shelter. The old man's eyes ran over her like a cold finger. He said, "Name." "Amara." He nodded once. He looked at Grace. "Friend." "Friend," Grace said softly. He lifted the staff and tapped the ground. 2 men came from the shadow. The one in dashiki opened a small bundle and brought out chalk, leaves, and a red string. The man in the kaftan smiled. The smile did not touch his eyes. "Sit," the old man said. Amara Saturday. The ground was damp. The chalk was cold on her forehead. The leaves smelled bitter, like medicine that did not care whether you liked it. The red string made her shoulders tense. It touched her wrist and her heart raced like a goat at a slaughter bench. "What is this for?" she asked, trying to keep her voice from breaking. "Protection," the kaftan man said. "Protection from what?" "From poverty," he said. Grace stood just behind her shoulder. Amara could feel her breath. "Be calm," Grace whispered. "Don't spoil it." The drummer's hands moved faster now. The old man began to chant names Amara did not know. The women moved in a circle. The leatherbag man opened the bag, and the smell that rose made Bal push into Amara's throat. Animal blood, old and iron. She saw a bowl. She saw dark stains that years of washing could not erase. Her body decided before her mind did. She stood. The kaftan man's hand shot out and closed on her elbow. "Sit." "No," she said. The word surprised her with its size. Grace's voice cut the air. "Amara." Amara turned to her. "What is this?" Grace's face was careful. "Do you think I would harm you?" "Yes," Amara said, and felt something tear inside. The old man sighed, like a teacher tired of a stubborn child. He tapped the staff once. The drummer stopped. The compound listened. "Take her," the old man said. It was simple. It was final. The dashiki man stepped to Amara's side. The kaftan man tightened his grip. Grace stood, hands folded like a bride at the front of a church. Amara yanked her elbow hard and stamped on the kaftan man's foot. He grunted. She shoved the dashiki man with her shoulder. He stumbled back. She ran. The candle path was narrow, but she didn't care. She kicked one over. Wax sprayed. A woman screamed. The leatherbag man lunged at her waist. She twisted and his hand caught only the edge of her wrapper. It tore. She did not stop. She hit the gate with her shoulder and bounced, then hit it again and burst through. The lane tilted under her feet. She ran past the mango tree, past the lovers, past the Kent hanging like a quiet witness. She cut into the alley. The city opened up and swallowed her. In the small room where Teo had hidden her, the bulb kept buzzing. Her breath slowed. The night pressed its ear to the door. Her phone was with the leatherbag man. She could not call Dele. She could not call her mother. She had only her name, her feet, and the small kindness of a stranger who sat outside and waited. A soft knock. "Amara." She didn't answer. "It's me," Teo said. "They passed. They asked if I saw a girl. I said no. They looked around. They left." She unlocked the door and let him in. He stood near the threshold, hands in pockets, careful not to crowd her. "Thank you," she said. He shook his head. "I didn't do anything brave. I just closed a door." "That is brave tonight." He half smiled. "Do you want food?" She shook her head. "I want morning." He nodded. "Morning will come." Silence settled, not heavy, just present. A lizard clicked on the wall. A car honked twice outside the compound and faded into the night. She looked at her torn wrapper and laughed once, short and confused. If my mother sees me like this, she will say I did not tie it well. Her mouth trembled. The laugh turned to a sob. She pressed her fist to her lips to hold it in. It pushed through anyway. Teo looked at the floor, giving her space. After a while he said, "Sometimes people we love borrow another face when they are hungry. When they return the face, the damage stays." Amara wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand. She said she was helping me. Maybe she believed it. That is worse. He nodded. "I loved her," Amara said. The words were simple. They held years. We were children together. We learned to dance at the same time. We fought and slept on the same mat and forgave before morning. She knows my mother's laugh. She knows the scar on my knee from the day I fell into the cassava pit. How can she forget me enough to do this? Some people don't forget, Teo said. They trade. Amara closed her eyes. In the dark behind her lids she saw three things. Grace's face cool as water, the red string, and Dele's gentle hands as he turned a broken phone until it worked again. The bulb flickered and fell quiet, as if it too was tired of the night. "Rest," Teo said. "At first light, we will go to my aunt's church. Then you can decide your next move." Amara nodded. "Thank you." He left and locked the door from outside. She lay on the mat. The floor was hard, but it held her. Sleep didn't come, only small islands of drifting. On one island, she was at the village festival, wearing a bright ankara skirt, matching with Grace, dancing under strings of bulbs. On another, she was with Dele in the shop, eating jollof and laughing at a screen that wouldn't stop freezing. On a third, she sat by her mother's bed, counting out pills and telling her stories about professors and buses and a classmate who sold shoes from the back of a car. Between the islands, the same thought kept swimming. Trust is also a door. It opens. It can also open the wrong room. Near dawn, a cock crowed somewhere, stubborn and proud. The sky outside began to pale. A child cried and then stopped. The compound came awake. Buckets clanged. A radio popped to life with a preacher talking about people who eat with you by day and plan against you by night. Amara sat up and tied her wrapper tighter. The cut in her palm had dried. The blood flaked off like old paint. She stood and washed her face in a cracked bowl. The water was cold and new. She felt human again, which somehow made the pain sharper. 3 soft knocks. "It's me," Teo said. She opened the door. He handed her a simple skirt and top. "My cousin left these when she moved. They will fit." "God bless you," she said. He nodded and looked at the corridor. "They won't come back in daylight. Too many eyes. But your friend." "My friend," Amara echoed, tasting the word and finding it spoiled. Teo didn't push. "Eat small," he said, giving her bread and tea in a metal cup. "Then we go." She ate, each bite slow. The bread was dry, the tea sweet. Both felt like gifts. When she was ready, they stepped into the morning. The compound smelled clean. Women in wrappers and cheap slippers greeted the sun with buckets and gossip. A small girl spun in a faded dress, trying to make it flare like a princess. On a line, a Kent scarf hung to dry, bright and brave. A man in a kaftan passed on his way to prayers, nodding at no one. Amara's legs still shook, but they obeyed. They walked to the gate. Before they stepped out, she looked back at the room. It was just a small space with a bad bulb. It had been a fortress. "Teo," she said. "When you closed that door last night, you chose me over trouble. Thank you." He gave a short, awkward bow, the kind men give when they don't know what to do with gratitude. "Go and be safe," he said. "And if you can, go and be loud too." They stepped onto the street. Morning vendors were setting up. Smoke lifted straight, no wind yet to bully it. A boy pushed a wheelbarrow full of oranges, shouting prices. Life, rude and strong, was back. Amara turned one last time, scanning the road. No kaftan. No dashiki. no scarf in blue and gold. But she knew the night had not finished with her. Night never finishes in one night. It hides, waits, tries again. She took a breath and started walking toward the church, toward whatever came next. The city watched, indifferent. The sun climbed. Somewhere far away, in a small room with a tin roof, her mother stirred and reached for her phone that was not there. Inside Amara, two things stood up together: fear and a stubborn kind of love, for the life she had almost lost, for the people who had not sold her, and for the girl she had been before doors began to open the wrong way. She walked faster. Long before the city lights and the narrow escape, Amara and Grace were just two girls chasing each other down the dusty paths of Umui's village. The village was small enough for everyone to know who your parents were, but big enough to hide a little trouble. The mornings smelled of wood smoke and wet earth. The roosters in Umui's had no sense of time. They crowed when they liked, not just at dawn. Amara's family lived near the stream, in a compound where the mud walls had been patched so many times you could see layers like a storyteller's memory. Her father had died when she was 8, leaving her mother to raise Amara and her younger brother. Grace's house was just 2 compounds away, her parents still together but always chasing one hustle or another, trading palm oil, running a small food stall, hiring out a battered generator for events. From as far back as Amara could remember, Grace had been beside her. They fetched water together, their aluminum basins resting like crowns on their heads. They pounded yam together during festive seasons, each taking turns until their arms shook. They shared a kara wrapped in old newspaper after church, tearing pieces with fingers that smelled of groundnut oil. The bond between them wasn't just about friendship, it was survival. When Amara's mother didn't have enough gari, Grace's family filled a bowl for her. When Grace's father traveled and her mother fell ill, Amara's mother sent soup over in a calabash. They wore hand-me-downs from each other's families. One December, when Grace's uncle sent a new Ankara bundle from Lagos, the girls got matching skirts sewn, wearing them proudly to the Christmas service. Their favorite place in the whole village was the mango tree at the edge of the school field. After lessons ended, they'd sit under it, their school uniforms dusted brown from the dirt roads, talking about the future like it was something they could mold with their hands. Amara, Grace said one afternoon, tossing her slippers aside, "I'm telling you, when we reach the city for university, I will never wear cheap slippers again. Only heels. And I'll have 10 handbags." Amara laughed. "And who will be carrying all those handbags for you?" "Not you. My boyfriend. Rich one. He will take me to eat chicken every weekend." Amara shook her head. "I'll still eat beans. Beans will not break your heart." Grace rolled her eyes. "You like suffering too much. See, I will have money, wear wigs like the actresses on TV, and when I come back for Christmas, people will say, 'Ha, Grace, the city has done you well.'" "And me?" Amara asked, half joking. "You will be my best friend. I'll take you along. Anything I have, you'll have." It was the kind of promise that, in the mouth of a friend, felt like truth. Life in Umui's moved to the rhythm of tradition. The village market came alive every 4 days, with traders shouting over one another and buyers haggling with exaggerated complaints about prices. During New Yam Festival, the whole community wore their best, men in flowing kaftans or crisp white shirts, women in Ankara or Kent, their heads wrapped high. Drummers sat in a circle under the elders' shed, the skin of the drums tight and singing, while the dancers moved with steps that had been passed down for generations. Amara loved those festivals for the music and the stories told by the fire in the evenings. Grace loved them for another reason: the visiting relatives from the city, especially the young men who arrived in tinted cars, with cologne that stayed in the air long after they'd gone. "You see that one in the red dashiki?" Grace whispered to Amara one year. "He works in Abuja. He told my cousin he just bought a flat." "And?" Amara teased. Grace grinned. "And one day, that will be my husband." Amara shrugged. "Maybe. But sometimes the rich ones have a different kind of hunger. My mother says a man who hides his eyes when he talks can hide other things too." Grace dismissed it. She had a way of waving away warnings like they were flies. They grew older, finished secondary school together, and both passed their exams well enough to dream of university. Amara's mother sold her last piece of gold jewelry to help with the admission fees. Grace's father borrowed money from an uncle. When the admission letters came, they screamed and danced in front of the post office. They had both been accepted to the same university in the city. That night, under the mango tree, they made another promise. No matter what happened in the city, they would not forget where they came from. But the city has its own language, its own rules, its own ways of reshaping people. Their first week in the city was like stepping into another world. Noise from morning to night. Bright billboards with faces they didn't know selling things they couldn't afford. Buses so full that people hung on the doors. Women in high heels walking so fast you'd think they were late to meet the president. Amara kept her head down, trying to memorize the streets to avoid getting lost. Grace kept her head high, scanning every face, as if she were looking for someone who had been expecting her. They rented a small room off campus. One bed, one table, 2 chairs. Amara brought a mosquito net from the village. Grace brought a mirror the size of a car bonnet. They shared food, shared laughter, and sometimes shared silence when homesickness crept in. The first difference came quietly. Grace started going out more, first to campus parties, then to dinners with friends. She'd return late, smelling of perfume and roasted meat, her phone buzzing with messages. Amara stayed in most nights, reading or calling her mother. She picked up small jobs, helping in the school library, typing assignments for classmates, for extra money. Grace teased her. "City is passing you by, my friend." Amara would smile. "I didn't come here for the city. I came for school." Grace would laugh, shake her head, and say, "One day, I'll pull you into the real life." The pull started small, an invitation to a restaurant, a ride in a tinted car, a gift of new sandals. And though Amara didn't know it yet, the same promise made under the mango tree, "Anything I have, you'll have," was still alive in Grace's heart. It just wasn't the kind of promise she had imagined. By their second semester, Amara and Grace were still sharing the same small room, but it was starting to feel like they were living in 2 different worlds. Grace's side of the room had changed. New clothes, bright ankara skirts with tailored cuts, fitted tops, kaftans with gold embroidery. She had perfumes lined up on the table, lipsticks in colors Amara had never seen before, and a small bag of jewelry that clicked softly whenever she opened it. Amara's side looked the same as when they arrived, 2 neatly folded wrappers, a few old blouses, her stack of textbooks, and the little tin her mother had given her for storing coins. The changes weren't just in the room. They were in Grace herself. She now spoke with a certain confidence, like she had been given a script for city life and memorized it perfectly. Her laugh was louder, her makeup sharper, and she always seemed to know where to be to meet the right people. Amara didn't ask too many questions at first. She thought maybe Grace had just found a way to fit in faster. But there were moments, small ones, that made her uneasy. Like the night Grace came home at 2 a.m., wearing a sequined top and smelling faintly of alcohol, her eyes glassy but her voice soft as she asked, "Do you believe in blessings, Amara? The kind that can change everything overnight?" Or the day Amara spotted her in the market, speaking in low tones to a man in a dashiki, and when she called Grace's name, her friend jumped as if caught doing something wrong. Money became a quiet tension between them. Amara still counted every naira carefully, making sure her transport fare wouldn't leave her hungry. Grace, on the other hand, stopped cooking in the room and started eating out almost every day. Sometimes she would pay for Amara too, smiling as if it was nothing. "You don't need to thank me," she would say. "One day, you'll do the same for me." But Amara did thank her. Too much, maybe. Because a small voice in her head was already asking, "Where is all this money coming from?" The first time Grace hinted at something bigger, it was on a Thursday evening. Amara had just come back from her shift at the library, tired but relieved that she had earned enough to send a little money home. Grace was sitting on the bed, scrolling on her phone, dressed in a fitted ankara gown that hugged her like it was stitched onto her skin. "Tomorrow night, there's a meeting," Grace said casually. "What kind of meeting?" "The kind that can change your life. You'll meet people who can open doors for you." Not those small doors you've been knocking on, real doors. Amara frowned. What do they want in return? Grace smiled, a little too quickly. Respect. That's all. You show them you are serious, they bless you. And after that, your problems are over. It sounded too easy. Too perfect. Where is this meeting? You'll see. Just wear ankara. Not jeans. It's traditional. Amara told herself she wouldn't go. But over the next few days, things started to weigh on her. Her mother called, worried about money for her younger brother's school fees. The hostel manager reminded her that rent would be due soon. Even Dele, the quiet boy in her statistics class, had asked why she looked so worn out lately. And every time she thought about it, Grace's voice came back, your problems will be over. Friday evening came, and Grace was glowing. Literally glowing, her skin oiled and warm under the light, her scarf neatly tied, gold earrings swinging as she moved. You look nervous, she said, fastening a bead bracelet onto Amara's wrist. I am nervous, Amara admitted. Grace squeezed her hand. Don't be. I told you, these people are good. They've helped me before. That last sentence stuck in Amara's head. Helped her before? She wanted to ask what exactly that meant. But Grace was already locking the door and leading her out. The city felt different that night. The air was heavy, the streetlights throwing strange shadows on the road. Grace led the way into a neighborhood Amara had never been to before, narrow streets, old houses leaning close to each other, and the occasional figure watching from a doorway. They turned into a compound where candles lined the ground in small cups, their flames steady in the still air. Somewhere deeper inside, a drum spoke in a slow, steady rhythm. Men in kaftans and dashikis stood near the entrance. One of them collected their phones and dropped them into a plastic bowl without a word. Grace smiled at them like she knew them well. Inside, the air smelled of leaves and something metallic. Women moved quietly, carrying calabashes. An old man sat under a shelter at the far end, a carved staff across his lap. His eyes followed Amara as she walked in, and she felt the kind of shiver you can't blame on the wind. Grace leaned close to her ear. When it's your turn, just do what they say. It's simple. Amara nodded, but her chest felt tight. She didn't know why her hands were trembling, but she kept them still. And somewhere, in the middle of that candlelit compound, she felt the first pull of fear, a quiet whisper telling her that this blessing was not what it seemed. The moment the old man's eyes met hers, Amara knew. This wasn't a meeting for opportunities or blessings. This was something else, something that smelled like danger dressed in tradition. She sat on the low bench as instructed, her knees almost touching the damp earth. The old man began to speak in a slow, steady chant, naming spirits she didn't recognize. Women moved in a circle, their wrappers swishing against each other, carrying calabashes filled with leaves, chalk, and something that looked like red water. The man in the dashiki stepped forward and tied a thin red string loosely around Amara's wrist. His hands were cold. The kaftan man followed, placing a small wooden bowl on the ground in front of her. Inside it, she saw feathers, kola nuts, and what looked like dried blood. Name, the old man said. Amara, she replied, her voice thin. He nodded once, then turned to Grace, who was standing behind her. Friend, he asked. Grace's lips curved into the smallest smile. Friend, she said softly. Something in the way she said it made Amara's stomach twist. The dashiki man reached into his leather bag and brought out a small knife. Its handle was carved with symbols, the blade worn but sharp. He bent toward her wrist. Protection, he said, almost gently. Amara pulled her arm back. I don't need this. Grace's hand pressed down on her shoulder. Be calm. Don't spoil it. Her voice was still warm, but her grip was firm, too firm. Amara looked up at her face. It wasn't the face of the girl who shared mangoes with her under the village tree. It was someone else's face, someone colder, someone who had made peace with whatever was about to happen. The kaftan man's voice cut through. Hold her. Two women moved quickly, one grabbing Amara's left arm, the other pressing down on her right. Her heart thudded so loud she could barely hear the drum. "Wait," she said, trying to push back. "I don't want this." The old man tapped his staff on the ground. "Too late," he said simply. That was the moment she stopped thinking and started fighting. Amara twisted her body sharply, kicking out with both feet. The woman holding her stumbled back. She yanked her arm from the other's grip and shoved Grace hard enough to make her step away in surprise. The dashiki man lunged forward, but Amara was already running. She dashed through the circle of women, knocking over one of the calabashes. Its contents spilled on the ground, the red liquid splashing against her sandals. The candles on the path blurred as she moved. Someone grabbed at her wrapper, it tore halfway, but she didn't stop. She slammed into the wooden gate with her shoulder. The first hit bounced her back, but the second sent it swinging open. The lane outside was dark and narrow. She could hear footsteps chasing her, heavy and fast. Her lungs burned as she ran, zigzagging between small kiosks and laundry lines. Somewhere to her left, a baby cried. Somewhere behind her, a man shouted, "Stop her." She spotted a crack in a rusted metal fence and dove toward it, squeezing through just as the dashiki man's hand brushed her ankle. She landed hard in the backyard of a compound, scraping her knee, but she didn't care. She kept moving, past buckets and a sleeping goat, until she reached another street. The city was quieter here. Two men sat by a grill, roasting fish. They looked at her torn wrapper and sweaty face, then looked away. That was the city, everyone saw, but no one asked. She walked quickly, trying to blend in with the few people still on the road. Every shadow made her flinch. Every sound of footsteps made her heart jolt. She needed somewhere to hide. That was when she saw Teo. He was leaning on his bicycle by a small kiosk, wearing a faded shirt and carrying a delivery bag. His eyes flicked over her, taking in the torn wrapper, the blood on her palm, the wild look in her eyes. "You're running from someone," he said quietly. Amara swallowed hard. "Yes." He nodded once. "Come. My aunt's compound. You can stay until morning." Inside the compound, the smell of kerosene and soap wrapped around her. Teo led her to a small room behind the bathrooms, a mat on the floor, one flickering bulb. "No one will come here," he said. "Rest. In the morning, you decide where to go." Amara sat on the mat, her whole body shaking. "Thank you." He gave a small shrug. "Sometimes you just close the door before trouble walks in." The night was long. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Grace's face, not angry, not even regretful. Just calm, as if she had been doing her a favor. By dawn, Amara had made her decision. She couldn't stay in the city. Not with Grace still out there, and not with the memory of that compound sitting in her chest like a stone. 2 days later, she was back in Umui's village. Her mother cried when she saw her, running her hands over Amara's arms as if to make sure she was whole. "I'm safe now," Amara said, though part of her knew the safety was only as real as the distance she had put between herself and Grace. Life in the village was slower. She helped at the market, started teaching some of the younger girls how to read after school. She told them about the city, but only the parts that wouldn't scare them. When they asked about Grace, she would pause before answering. "She's still in the city," she'd say, and leave it at that. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe and turn on your notification for more. See you soon.